Yeah. Okay. Didn't remind me. I'll blame you. You got broad shoulders. Yeah. So yeah, I was doing the Mayan background and culture, and absolutely amazing. Okay, it really was. So much I didn't know about them. You know, you get the general knowledge, but they were really passive people, really civilized people. Okay, and they were the forerunners of science and mathematics, or took it to another level. Okay, they were writing books, you know, on their sort of paper that they wasn't paper, but what they had in their days to write on it, and it was a general population. It wasn't, so it was really so interesting, and then the conquerors came, the Spaniards. Okay, and it was so interesting, John.
They were incredibly brutal, weren't they?
They were very brutal, and they had guns. Okay, now the Aztecs and they hadn't invented guns. They still had swords and shields. Okay, but they had evolved in other areas of science and maths and astronomy. Okay, you know, they did the Mayan calendar through astronomy, and so it was yeah, absolutely. Sort of really mind-boggling to do the research and find out these things about them. And yeah, the Spaniards came, and oh my goodness.
Because they were quite isolated too, weren't they?
Yes, they were. They were, you know, in a lot of ways, because of their physical location within, let's call it South America. Okay. And you know, I think that, but then when the Spaniards came, and then with the Spaniards came these Christian bishops that tried to convert everybody. Okay, and when it didn't work, because these Aztecs were just smarter than the Christian bishops, they then burnt all these books. Okay, to try and take away their culture. It's horrible to think, you know, and there's still a lot of Mayans, you know, around today that, you know, have, and that's their ancestors that were there, and they still very much identify themselves as these people. Some of them even carry out, you know, they used to sacrifice in people in those days, and their belief system, you know, was if you sacrifice, you can avoid going through what they described as the 9 levels of after reaching the spiritual realm, and then having gone through the 9 levels, you then go into the 9 levels of on your way to paradise. Okay, if you have successfully completed all the others, but that's if you sacrificed yourself. Or you were allowed to be sacrificed, and so they used to take the living hearts out of human beings, and while they were still alive. Okay, so they were also very cruel in that way. But it's a belief system, you know, and you know, when like somebody in my class said, what difference is it to the Christians? Because you go and take communion and you eat in the body of Jesus, you know, and the blood of Jesus, and you know, they just did it literally. Okay, so yeah, all very interesting.
And was it really as a result of the Spanish that they pretty much wiped them out?
No. Nobody knows, okay, why they were wiped out or how they got wiped out. They are obviously, when you don't know, there are lots of theories, okay, and lots of speculation. But it appeared that they left their cities before the Spanish arrived. Okay, and now whether that was because they knew about the guns and all they had were swords, or whether in actual fact it was part of their evolution to become more rural, which is another aspect. So, and then once they became rural, there wasn't the same archaeological evidence of what they were doing when they left their cities. But you know, you don't just, people just don't leave cities. Okay, so I'm not quite sure. Nobody's sure. Okay, there wasn't any, for me, any reasonable sort of even a conspiracy theory. There wasn't a reasonable one. Okay, so nobody knows why they left. So, and also,
interesting.
It is very interesting, and you know, they weren't historically, they weren't in that land where there was much natural agricultural opportunities. Okay, because it was forests and mountains. Okay, and so, you know, maybe they deforested the areas and made the lands and did the opposite to what people are doing today. Everybody's heading to an urban area. And
so do you think, when you think about them and also like the, you know, the Romans and that sort of thing, it seems that some of these civilizations just run their course, don't they? You know, they seem to, for whatever reason, I guess, you know, but they seem to run their course. You know, they peter out somehow.
Yeah, I think that it's so easily said. But, you know, when you look at the Romans and what we know quite a lot about the Romans because there was plenty written down. Okay, and it appeared that they, you know, within their ranks, they had a lot of discontent, a lot of power struggles. Okay,
it was pretty much an economic collapse, though, wasn't it? Like they just couldn't feed the beast that they'd grown to, could they?
Yeah, and whether that happened at the same time or what had happened, but you know, and also with Christianity coming into their ranks as well, which was really vastly against them until, who was it? Was it Christendom who eventually accepted the Christians? Okay, but yeah, and you know, they were you know, also very cultured in the sense of you know, they had various, let's call it artistic type pursuits that they were really good at, but they were also brutal. Absolutely brutal as well. So you know, so yeah, but you know, run their course. But what brings it to an end? You think it's just like 500 years of running down, and you know, economically and morally, perhaps as well.
Or it could be disease, or it could be
plague,
warfare, or any of that sort of stuff. Really, I mean, I suppose there's a myriad of reasons as to why it can happen, but
yeah. So yeah, we actually don't know. You know, when you come across something like the people that lived in Pompeii, you know, that's now clear cut. You've got everything. You know that the volcano exploded and there was poisonous gas out, and then the ash fell down and buried everybody, and then came the lava,
Mm.
and you know,
Mm.
now we know everything basically. And now even
It's a fascinating place. Yeah, it's fascinating. I've been there.
have you been there? Tell me
Mm.
about it. It really, I've
Yeah,
researched it. Yeah.
yeah. It's like a museum almost. You know, that you can walk the cobble streets and you can see how they did their sign markings,
Okay.
and there's lots of houses that are open for display, and it was basically, yeah, as you say, it was just that natural disaster which froze them in time, in effect. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but they built it, built the city there adjacent to the volcano. So tell you something too before I forget.
Hmm.
Every morning early, I've been, like I walk the dog, normally leave here about 4:45 or thereabouts.
Hmm.
And every day in the last week or a couple of weeks probably, first thing I do when I walk out the front door is I look up at Venus.
Yeah.
And because of the proximity of, there's four planets in our solar system pretty much in a line, and Mars and Venus at the moment are really quite close together in the sky anyway, in
Right.
terms of appearance. But it was, what day would it have been? It must have been, I think it was Tuesday morning.
Hmm.
Walked out, and it was about 10 to 5, and pitch black. And I looked up at Venus, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I
Wow.
could see this like satellite going across, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. So I thought I was dreaming at one point. So they were coming from the south and going north.
Right.
They were in a perfectly straight line and perfectly spaced. And I thought, oh, this is just incredible. Like, and I'm sort of talking to the dog, look at that. And dog's looking at me, come on, hurry up. We need to go for a walk. So,
And do you know what it was?
yeah, well, when I came back, I thought, oh, like, this cannot just be like my imagination. So I Googled it. Yeah, and it's actually one of Elon Musk's
Starlinks. Yeah.
Starlink. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it turns out there was 60 satellites in a row. And apparently each of these satellites, quite interestingly, is about the size of a dining room table.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's about getting global internet access to every person on the planet. So that's really the essence of it. And he launches, I think, every month. I think he sets another,
Yeah.
20 or whatever up there.
Right.
And but I could not believe my eyes. Like, I just saw this procession. They call it like a satellite train, in the sense that it has the same sort of movement as a train. And it's just all of these satellites, and they just kept on coming and coming and coming. And the fascinating part about it was that my own reaction. I thought, what the heck is it? I said, it's not planes, because it's like they're all, and there's no sound or anything. And then I thought, oh, is it Russian or Chinese missiles? And I thought, no, that's not. And I had just had no idea what it was. I just had never seen anything like it before in my life. No,
Yeah, it's interesting because there's quite a big story. I mean, they're well over 2,000 of Musks already up there. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's got permission. I think it is for 32,000 of those dining room tables. Okay. But there was a complaint from Europe that they were too shiny. And so the ones that have been sent up this year, okay, or since the beginning of February anyway, have been made differently and coated differently so that they don't shine down on Earth. Okay. And yeah, because astronomers were also complaining bitterly that that it was interfering with them. And,
But it was fascinating to see it, you know, like
yeah.
just for goodness gracious, you know. And it was sort of just so coincidental, you know, that because Venus, you know, was probably one of the brightest, you know, stars in the sky, you know,
and they've been close together now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very close together. But I noticed there's a little tab up at the top of the screen. It says remaining meeting time.
Yes, I can't understand that. A big thing came up and flashed in front of me now as you were talking. And when there's one-on-one, there's never been a limit. Okay. But they, I guess, changed their rules. I don't know. But it says here 7 more minutes. It'll take us to about 10 past or so. We might have to change our plans because I'm certainly not going to upgrade.
No.
And
otherwise, we could try Skype. We could try Skype again or something if you wanted to.
Yeah, we can start again, or we can go to Skype or something. Okay. Let's see. Oh, we could also try, what's that one? Google one as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit
Google
more
Meet.
complex, I think. But I think you can also do it in WhatsApp too, can't you?
Yeah, you can. I've never tried it on computer. You know, I've only got, well, no, that's a lie. I've recently just put it on my computer, but I've only ever used it with phone calls and things like that on my phone. I don't know what it would be like on a screen. But yeah.
Anyway, but I just thought I'd share that with you. It was
that's
quite
so
a unique experience.
Yeah, fantastic. I must actually, now that we've got clear sky, I must go for a walk in the evening as well. See what there is. Because during summertime.
Well, I guess if you looked out to the west, like there'd be virtually no light pollution out to the west, would there? It would just be because of the ocean, you know. So
yeah, it's you're right. But I've got to get free of the houses because I can't easily look. You know, I'm in a sort of in a suburb, and I suppose I can walk to a road that travels east-west and then look from there to see. But then there are houses on the other side of the road too, and then there's a freeway, and then there are trees. So, but anyway, I think I probably will be able to find a position where I can look west. Yeah.
Very interesting. When you think about the technology that's up there now, I mean, you look at some of the, I don't know if you've ever seen it, some of those maps where you see a globe and it sort of plots where all the satellites are. I mean, it's like a dust cloud, isn't it?
It's just, that's a good description of it, definitely, because China is coming very aggressively to compete with Musk, okay? Also for the internet, okay? They really, and so are the Russians, okay? It's and don't believe, you know, you got to believe me that, you know, the Indians and the Japanese as well.
Oh, for sure.
And the European space agencies as well. But I find that really interesting is the Artemis, NASA's Artemis program, where they've, you know, the idea is that they've a whole collection of countries have formed around NASA, and you know they're busy testing the rocket now. And the first rocket will just go around the moon and survey the moon, and then the next rocket, all unmanned, will land on the moon and so on. And then the whole purpose is to man on the moon, okay, and to then start building a permanent structure on the moon for people to stay there, okay. And they've already got a satellite going around the moon that can house a few people, and then there are a few others going up as well, further away around the Earth rather than around the moon. That is going to be like an industrial complex you know,
Mm.
put up by, well, ethos is, you know, what Elon Musk wants to do is just be the transporter. That's what he wants to do.
Mm.
And he wants to get people to the moon, get people to Mars, get people. I mean, his company has done something like 22 trips to the International Space Station, taking
Yeah.
people to and from,
Yeah.
including Russians.
Mm.
And,
Mm. I was reading this interesting article last night too. It was talking about Russia and Ukraine and stuff like that. And it was more talking about Russia than anything. And the point of the author was, he said, like, following the Nazis, you had the Nuremberg trials. He said, so there was this process put in place to, you know, wake up to what had happened and talk about, you know, the healing process to go forward. And the same in South Africa with the what was the name of the commission they set up there? The following apartheid.
a reconciliation.
Truth and reconciliation, or whatever it was
Yeah.
called. You know, so again, there was this process of sort of healing and, you know, justice in action and stuff like that. But his proposition was that in Russia, that never happened. And as a result of that, you know, there's still a lot of unrest and undercurrent going on in that country.
Okay.
Because, you know, with the way the Soviet Union came together and then fell apart, and, you know, so there's still a lot of issues in the undercurrent there that have never ever been dealt with. And is sort of saying, well, in some ways, you know, this is a symptom of that. I think we're about to get kicked off this, aren't we?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Well, we'll just see what happens, I guess. If it just kicks us off, we'll just go to Skype. We'll do that.
Yeah, we just come in again. Okay. I'm
Or
just
come back in
wondering. Yeah, I'm just wondering whether it actually had something to do with us sharing. Maybe that's a facility. I don't know. I don't know what the small print is. You know, I know if you have 3 people in, you can only do 40 minutes on Zoom. Okay.
40 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't even been that though, has it?
Yeah, it's been 40 minutes. Yeah, if we started it off past, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, but you didn't. Oh, that's right. It was the recording you started later.
Yeah. So whatever. Okay. If we get cut off, we just chop in again.